boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Conspiracy Castle. I am your conspiracy asshole, Primetime 9 and 9, Alex Stein, and we are on the grind all the time, and we have a very lovely guest. We have the one, the only, William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates, coming back to the castle to break down the predictive programming and the symbolism behind 9/11. So you know it's going to be a hot and heavy episode like always. So what do we always say? We got to keep our mind open. We can't have a closed mind with these intense subjects, because a closed mind is not going to be able to understand a lot of the intense subjects that we're handling. So I just want to say, free your mind and the rest will follow type situation. So with no further ado, William, welcome to the Conspiracy Castle. Thank you for coming back, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you again, Alex.
Well, it's always a pleasure, William, and I know you've done so much research, and you really are one of the best when it comes to like decoding and kind of seeing all the knickknacks and all the bull crap and that they're doing, because a lot of the problem is we're not you and I necessarily, but the majority of people are sheep that just want to be told, you know, what to do, and they don't want to look at any of this stuff for themselves. So that's why I respect you, is you don't take the butcher's word for it. You are going to do the research yourself. And so tell me, what got you so interested in 9/11 research, William?
Well, I mean, I think I spent time in D.C. from 95 to 98, and I was there. I kind of saw a much different reality than what was portrayed on the media. So that was really kind of when my distrust, or the scales fell from my eyes, where I really distrusted the media. And I saw that the political parties really had their tendrils into the media. So I researched stuff myself. 9/11 happened, and I really believed the cover story from the beginning. And probably 2 or 3 years later, I kind of started realizing there was real problems with the story, and that really set me off. Like once at probably like 2004 was when I was like, oh, if this is fake, I really got to figure this out. So I started reading everything. There were other kind of dissidents who talked about 9/11, and so I read them, and I think it was Loose Change came out, which was a kind of an important documentary. I don't remember the year that came out, but it seems like that was one of the things that I watched.
I think it came out like 4 years after 2014 or 2015, or maybe even sooner. But that was the most monumental documentary when it comes to 9/11. Sorry, I just wanted to...
Agreed. No, I thought it was earlier than that, but maybe I'm wrong.
It might have been 20. Here, let me find out the exact date. Okay, I'm gonna go.
But I would recommend that as an intro to kind of 9/11 and all the problems with it. But once you kind of realize that there's problems, then you got to kind of figure out.
It came out in 2005, but it's just...
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That does make sense. But I guess the latest edit was, you know, they've re-edited and recut it. But no, that is... Everybody needs to go see Loose Change, because the stuff William and I are going to talk about... I'm not saying Loose Change is 100% accurate, but it is the best depiction and description of the events that took place on September 11th, and the events that took before and after the events.
And one of the real kind of, I would say, people who research it from an academic background was David Ray Griffin. So that was what I was reading too. And he's written a number of books about 9/11, the kind of fallacies and real problems with that.
Well, so speaking of David Ray, though, because he was with the guy that opened up Richard Gage, but one guy you said that you always looked up to was Dave McGowan, and that you said he was one of the few guys that actually on the day of or right around, he was actually saying that it was fake, some sort of fake. So it
was him and Bill Cooper really were the two prominent public people that maybe Alex Jones did, I don't know. But I definitely remember McGowan and Bill Cooper. And Bill Cooper was killed like 2 months after 9/11. I don't think it was much longer. But
under really weird circumstances, the way Bill Cooper died. I mean, he was shot at his house.
Yeah, almost kind of like an operation to get him. Like he was cantankerous, but I think that something happened where it was at his property, so they kind of went after him. I think he only had one leg, so he wasn't that. I don't know if he was really that lethal or dangerous, but maybe, I don't know. He was definitely on somebody's radar, and I think his research, so at least that Mystery Babylon, really holds up till today. That work that he did on that. He was really kind of one of the early conspiracy researchers. Behold a Pale Horse was his book that was very popular. So that was kind of my 9/11. And so once I realized I'd been bamboozled that bad, I think that really kind of inspired me to really go back and try to figure out what happened. Who are these people? Who are the Bushes? What's the advantage? Who benefits, right? Cui bono is like the famous Latin phrase. It's who benefits from this, because it really wasn't the terrorists. It certainly wasn't Saddam Hussein or some of these people. So all these wars were really kind of the war in Afghanistan, which incredibly is still going on today, in Iraq, all came out of 9/11. So you have to see this as a very pivotal event. And so I think that the way I saw it was that if it was really that much of a time frame, it's very curious, even the date that it happened, really, September 11th, 2001, right at the beginning of the new millennium. So it's almost like a doorway into a new world in a lot of ways. And I think that's really was the intent of it, was really almost a millennial change from one era to the next. So we're in a post 9/11 world. So then you realize how, if somebody crafted that event, they really thought about it and really wanted to use that to their advantage. And so then you kind of put things together. And I kept seeing these 11s that were, the date is the 11th, the plane number is the 11. And you just see this numerology there. Well, why is it there? I had read something. There was a guy who's passed away now, and his name was Captain May. And he read something ran something. I think he was in Texas too. Ran something called Ghost Troop. So he was trying to really understand what was going on with false flag terror that happened after 9/11. So he was really writing and researching that. And he said, he wrote an article called Satan's Code, and he just noticed all these 11s. He's like, he's right. These 11s are there. He didn't quite get the meaning as far as I'm concerned. So then I kept reading, and then I read, really what cracked it was, I was reading something else about Crowley and his numerology. So then I really started reading, and I was like, oh my gosh, Crowley's master number is 11. You see the 93 is Crowley's number, 77 and
Flight 93. But go back real quick. Why Skybear? My cat's going crazy. What is the 11 though that's so important? I know that's a satanic number, but I forget, why did Alex Crowley like that number? Because there's some sort of inverted. What was the?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. It's like a prime number for him, but it goes back even before him. It really was. There was a group that he was involved with that was involved in all kinds of modern kind of magic, called the Golden Dawn. And one of the founders of the Golden Dawn had this book called, I can't remember the exact title, but Numbers, Their Values. And 11 was kind of a number of destruction and death. And that was kind of a global number. So that was something that this person had researched. It's in my book, Prophet of Evil. So that was an important.
The reason I ask is, what's so important about 9/11? Like, well, why is that? Why do they like that 9? Why do they use it for the emergency number? Why? Right. What do you think?
Well, I think that there's a deeper occult meaning. I think that's really it. And so really, the 11 is important for a variety of reasons. It's a coming together of the hexagram, which represents the microcosm, and then the macrocosm is the hexagram, right? So coming together, that's an 11. So that's really kind of what the magicians are trying to do, is bring together the microcosm and the macrocosm in themselves. So it's really a magical number. And then Crowley had this event, and so he said, in Egypt in 1904, he received this book called the Book of the Law. And in that book, this being, who he said was AWAZ, AIWAZ, dictated a book to him over 3 days. And it's really
real quick, did I just hear a dial-up modem? I haven't heard that noise in forever. Was that on your end?
Not for me, no.
Oh, wow, I could have sworn. Maybe I just hear something. I could have sworn I thought I heard a dial-up noise. Maybe it's just...
maybe it's something else.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I thought I was
anyway,
like, wow, that would have been cool. I haven't heard that sound. Sorry to cut you off.
He had this book. So in that book, it said, like, 11 is a prime number. It says, like, this being dictated to him. 11 is our number and the number of us. And so he took that book and formulated it into his religion he called Thelema. And Thelema is a Greek word, translates to will. So it's individual will.
Do what thou wilt.
Right. So that's later. And so then he created this axiom, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. And that's actually an 11-letter phrase, right? So 11 words, 11 syllables, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. So he's concentrating on this number and integrating it into his religion, so his dates and things like that. So Thelema is really his religion. So then you see this, and then Crowley was into something called gematria, which is a part of the Kabbalah where you take words and you find their numerical value. So each letter has a number, and you add those numbers together. What he did in his calculations is he discovered that the Greek words thelema and agape, will and love, add up to 93. So that became another very important number in his religion. And then 77 was also kind of his. 7 was like a power number, but 77 was his symbol for what he called Babylon, Baballon. He spelled it that way for Kabbalic reasons. But in his religion, you have the units. He actually stole or lifted ideas from the Book of Revelation. So you have the Lady Babylon riding the beast, and so they have this. He had this ritual.
That's what they say. They take the Bible and they invert it, right? They just do the opposite. So what is the ritual?
So it's called the marriage of the woman, the Scarlet Woman and the Beast. So he actually integrated that into his religion. He kind of had these Scarlet Women. He referenced himself as the Beast. But I'm just going to Crowley's numerology. And then 175 was a ritual that he did as a god that you adore. So it's a specific kind of, what do you call it, ritual that he had. And that's, I think, where those numbers were all there in the 9/11. So the 4 planes are Flight 11, 77, 93, 175. The first plane to hit the Twin Towers was in Flight 11. And then it was, I think, 175 was the
I didn't even think about that. Flight 11. What are the chances that I've never been on a Flight 11. Usually it's a 3-number flight. I mean, I'm sure there's obviously 2-number flights, but that's just kind of weird coincidence that on 9/11.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's not a coincidence. I mean, but Flight 11 on 9/11, it's too weird.
Well, then how many stories is the Twin Towers, right? It's 110 stories. So you have an 11. And even Crowley said that the numbers 11 were like an ideogram, and what he meant by that is that the 2 ones represented opposites, right? So you have these opposites coming together in kind of magical religion, and so you have literally the Twin Towers, these very remarkable, strange buildings that were built in New York City starting in the 60s that are really up against the skyline, a giant ideogram of an 11, right? And if you look at those Twin Towers, they don't really quite fit in with the skyline, if you noticed, right? So,
and that's David Rock. Yeah. I'm saying the Twin Towers are a huge 11 in the sky. There's no way you could ever, say it was something else. And it was in the downtown area of Manhattan, so it was extra tall. Like the buildings, I guess, weren't as tall. I'm just saying that you are so right. It sticks out. Even in a building of New York, the tallest buildings in the world, the World Trade Center still stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, no, and the new building is strange too, but those were also known as the 2 Rockefeller brothers. They were known as Nelson and David, right?
Yes, and there's clips of that. They literally, when they're talking about it, the buildings were named, or, that was their code.
That was their nickname. So that was the real incentive. Really, the real incentive for those buildings and the UN was the Rockefeller family, right? So it was on land that the Rockefeller family donated. That's not a conspiracy theory. So the UN building used to be, I think, a stockade. It used to be an animal husbandry type thing. And the Rockefellers bought it and built it. And then in there is what Bill Cooper talked about, the meditation room, which has the square of Saturn or whatever in there and all kinds of cool stuff. So, and he talks about
there has to be a ceremonial, some sort of ceremony room. These people love ceremonies, and I think
rituals. That's their religion, really. If look at the Rockefeller family going back. Look at Rockefeller Plaza, where they have the gilded statue of Prometheus. That's all kind of Blavatsky stuff that shows that family's religion really is
Greek mythology,
occultism. It's not Christianity. So Prometheus is an exemplar of Satan.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tell me, because I've seen that gold statue. What is the story behind the Prometheus gold statue? What's the symbolism behind that?
So Prometheus, right, was the Titan that gave fire to humanity, right? Okay. So you see Prometheus has the Promethean torch, so he brought light to humanity. So it's a symbol of Lucifer, the light bringer, right? So that's why the Prometheus is like an exemplar of Satan. And if you look at that statue in Rockefeller Plaza, I forgot what the actual quote was, but it says, "Through the power of Prometheus, I can do great things." It's very creepy, and it's in the backdrop of many.
It's everything. The Today Show, Saturday Night Live. I mean, Saturday Night Live. You always saw that, dude. You see that gold statue on. I mean, it's 30 Rockefeller Center. I know exactly where it is. Yeah, it's at 30 Rock, and that's where they have the ice skating rink. So that's where it's so famous. Every Christmas thing, you see and they love to make Christmas a paganist thing, and that's funny because that's it. Now they have a huge Black Lives Matter statue there that's getting everybody's getting mad at it because it's like an African statue with the heads all big. So you're 100% correct that the ceremony and symbolism is all Rockefeller.
So you have to go back to the Rockefellers. It's really the Bushes were fronts for the Rockefeller family. If you go back through 2008, Chase
even like Prescott, even like Prescott Bush, it goes they're always with the Rockefellers.
Right. So the Prescott is the father who worked for, I think, Averell Harriman. So they worked at Brown. They were in a big financial company, right? So it would be called like a white shoe firm. So it was all kind of very wealthy WASP types, East Coast Mandarin elites, Brahmins, you know what they would call.
And do you think WASPs are dead, the white Anglo-Saxon person? I mean,
that's a whole nother story.
I know that's a whole other story, but that's funny. It's crazy to think. I mean, there's always going to be some WASP, but basically that idea is like dead, I think.
Well, that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show, I know, yes.
Well, you want to get into 9/11, who's really behind it and what the Bushes are and all that stuff.
Well, that's what I think. No, we can get behind
readings, Bohemian Grove. All that stuff.
William, who do you think is involved? Because I definitely believe America is a false flag attack, but I also believe you have to look at Israel and Saudi Arabia and have to point a big. I mean, they were complicit 1,000% and benefited greatly.
Like David Ray Griffin, you talk about. He called his book "The New Pearl Harbor," but he got that from the council. Was it a New American Century Council for a New
PNAC? Yeah, the PNAC. Yeah.
And if you look at that, it's like so George Bush Sr. is the head of the CIA, right? So his two kids are on PNAC, and then a whole
Joe Biden was one of the biggest Democrats. He was the most famous Democrat they got to sign.
Have you heard him do his New World Order speeches? So he's done the New World. He's part of this whole cabal. But if you look at PNAC, you can see a lot of dual citizens who are egging on, who benefited.
Well, speaking of, real quick, for the people that don't know at home,
the hunting down and killing of Saddam Hussein and his two sons.
Well, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. But listen,
that's a real goal. That's a real globalist assault, because that area, the Middle East, is really the linchpin for global control. If you carve out Iraq, you're in a centralized position, for further domination. I don't know what the United States is going to do there now.
See, William, I think that's kind of a lie too. I don't even think the Middle East matters. We have enough oil and gas in Alaska and Texas. Like, I think that there is a holy war for Jerusalem, or that is like the Fertile Crescent. That is an important strategical place, but man, I think there was a better time when the Russians were fighting the Muslims and we were giving them the Charlie Wilson's war and we were giving them. That is a better scenario for us if somebody else is fighting in the Middle East than Americans, but we're never going to relinquish that spot.
Well, if you're part of that cartel of kind of like the military-industrial complex, that war in Iraq was a boondoggle, man. That was a huge wealth transfer. It's $7 trillion. You had to move everybody over there. It's just like Vietnam. There were so many people making money off that war that why would they want it to stop? It didn't really stop for those first 8 years. But that's part of the larger issue of going back to 9/11. It's a crucial event in world history, really in American history in particular, that changed things on so many levels. So, and then you got to say who benefits. And then what was the benefits and what's the idea? What's the capacity of that human being, somebody to do that?
So do you think, let's go back to the initiation ritual. I believe 9/11 had to be some sort of initiation. You were saying to this, it was kind of a time or a new year. What was the significance of the date?
September 11th. It's on the 11th, right? It's a 9/11.
Well, no.
So that's like a power number. 9
wasn't it a new year? No, but I'm saying, wasn't it a new year? What were you saying
about
the
new millennium?
The new millennium, of course. It was right after the new millennium. So you just look at the importance of 9/11 and the symbolism behind it, that it had to be some sort of a cultic initiation ritual, in my opinion, into the New World Order. But the difference what's happening now with like the pandemic, this is making us more divisive. At least 9/11 brought us together. So do you think that the social engineers that brought down the towers or, created 9/11, did they know that we were going to have this like love and camaraderie and all coming together after the fact? Did they expect that, or do you think that was unexpected in your opinion?
I don't know. I think that it was very useful because the whole country was primed and ready for vengeance, right? So if you want to talk about getting everybody on board for some kind of war or something like that, that was very successful.
Most successful ever, dude. I didn't have anything to do with it. I want to go kill them towelheads. I want to go over there. I mean, that was literally the mindset of everybody, and I didn't have any knowledge of the situation at all, but I was just so mad. And I'm not a racist person, but you think, oh my God, it's some Muslim terrorist. they did that. They created the idea of the Muslim terrorist, and they even did it with the predictive programming in Hollywood movies. Because in the movie Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they wanted to rent takes from the military. I think it was like Michael Bay. I forget who the big time director was, but they wanted to make the terrorists like Chinese or something, and the military said no, they need to be Muslim terrorists if you're going to use our stuff. So they've been trying to create, and Back to the Future was a Muslim terrorist. They've been trying to create the idea that all Muslims are terrorists for a long time, and I don't think that to be the case. All Muslims I meet are very laid back and really nice people.
Well, it's very fortunate for them. It's a good enemy, right? So you can just create them. I think that a lot of the false flag terror events that happened after 9/11 were totally fake. So everything that happened in Spain, London, those were all, to me, stage events. There was something that happened in India. It was I forgot which city it was.
Well, what do you think?
But there was a lot of intel stuff going on.
William, real quick, what do you think about this building that fell in Miami that looked awfully like the Twin Towers? And the reason why I asked that is I would never thought a building could implode. I think something funny happened. Like there was some sort of I don't know. I can't say it. I don't have any proof, but I think that building didn't just accidentally fall down, in my opinion. But what does that make you think? What does that make you think, though? Looking back at 9/11, you watch the controlled demolition, and then you see the building in Miami. It makes me second guess a little bit. Like it makes me look back at the towers, like, oh, maybe they can fall like that. But at the same time, I'm just saying. At the same time, a 110-story building is not going to fall in 11 seconds. So. But in my mind, I thought, oh, well, a building with concrete and steel like that can't just collapse. So seeing it, I guess maybe it opens the door that it's possible. But also in my head, as a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, they did something to that building, or they knew something. There's something in that building. It just seems I just don't, in my mind, I don't imagine buildings just falling down like a house of cards.
I don't know. I don't know what happened to that building. I mean, I read somewhere that they said they were going to have to do $15 million worth of repairs for it. So there seemed to be a knowledge that something was amiss. I don't know. I don't know if somebody wanted to kill somebody like that. But as far as 9/11,
well, they say McAfee,
the whole Building 7 doesn't fit into 9/11 at all. So that's one of the reasons you can tell that it was a staged event.
Okay, but when you say that, so Building 7, guys, if you're watching this show and you don't know Building 7, I don't know, I can't help you, but everybody needs to know about Building 7. That is a 47-story building that fell from office fires. It would be the first building to ever collapse from office fires, and it was called the Solomon Brothers Building. But explain that. What's the importance of Building 7, William?
Well, because it doesn't fit into the narrative. How did the terrorists take that down? Why did it fall late? I think it fell in the afternoon. And they actually blew it because, and it shows the kind of transnational power of the media, because they reported it in England before it actually fell, if you remember that. So that's a problem, and it indicates staged media, which probably is still happening today. But
the BBC said, "Oh, the Solomon Brothers building fell down," and it was right in the background the whole time. I mean,
right in the background. So she was just reading off of something. Somebody told her to read that. So there's all kinds of problems. But that's one example of 9/11, and it shows how it was a theatrical event. But I mean, you want to talk about this building? We can go in. You could do a whole show just on the Twin Towers and the spherical caryatid, which was the circle there, and all the predictive programming that was in TV shows. I mean, there's one with Arnold Schwarzenegger that was about demonism that featured the Twin Towers in the background. There's a sequence from Fight Club with the spherical caryatid in it. So a lot of people had to have known that this event was going to happen. If you ever see The Wizard of Oz, have you ever seen The Wiz with Michael Jackson? At the very end, do you know where the Wizard of Oz lives? And he lives at the Twin Towers. So the final sequence, yeah.
In the Michael Jackson music video.
You could probably pull it up on YouTube right now. If you look up the end of Wiz, it's pretty creepy. But there was in there, and there's all kinds of people doing videos on top of buildings. There's all kinds of crazy stuff.
No, but let's go back to the predictive programming. That is the predictive programming before the Twin Towers fell was so blatant. When you look at like the wrestling, the Twin Towers, and I think you said, or not think, I know you said it, Fight Club, that came out right before. And there's
1999.
So explain Fight Club, because I just watched it the other day since you told me. I'd seen it before, but I watched it again since our interview because you said how much symbolism. Dude, it is literally about a secret clandestine group trying to cause chaos. I mean, it's like what I'd imagine. If for people that haven't seen Fight Club, you need to watch it again. But like how this group spirals out of control and how like the group takes on the mind of its own. I believe that's what happens to the social engineers that are doing this. It's like they're almost not even evil people. They get in the group, and the group as a whole has this plan that you just kind of get sucked up into.
Well, we talked about Fight Club. You want to talk about a 5 and a 6? What's the name of the central character on that?
Of Tyler Durden.
And what are the numbers of his name?
5, 6.
5 and 6. What's the number of the name of Harry Potter?
5 and 6.
So there's your 11. So you're seeing this kind of theme of the 11s in that movie. So the movie, you saw the spherical carry added. You saw at the very end the Twin Towers of LA drop at the same time. So that's foreshadowing 9/11. It's just all kinds of straight stuff. And at the very end in the book is different than the film, because in the book, after he shoots himself in the mouth, his face turns into a big smiley face. So he's kind of a grinning demon. And that smiley face symbolism is all over Hollywood. And it's actually in Fight Club. If you watch my documentary, Occult Hollywood Volume 2, which is now up on Vimeo, I put all my videos back up on Vimeo. So all 5 of my documentaries are on Vimeo right now. But you'll see this smiley face symbolism is in Fight Club. But I mean, it's an incredible film because
it's one of the best.
Foreshadowed so much. And you're right, it's about a chaos causing club that is almost like, if you look at it, they're emulating or mimicking almost a monastic kind of life. You have to fight your way in. Remember, there's like initiations, and there's secrecy, tons of secrecy in there. Don't mention Fight Club. So Palniak or whatever his name is, he's drawing on all kinds of occult themes when he's writing that book.
And David Fincher did a great job directing it. So in one of the ending scenes, Edward Norton is just like he's going to kill himself, and he shoots his neck. So I didn't realize. So in the book, he's like smiling because like
read the end of the book. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Just because that part, because all of a sudden in the movie, like he shoots himself, and then they show him, and his like face is all fucked up, and then like all of a sudden, like 10 seconds later, he's still all messed up, but he's like able to talk, and like I just don't. So you can tell there's some sort of symbolism. Obviously that's fake. So they are trying to send some sort of message with the bullet through your mouth and still talking to him. What do you think that message is?
Well, I mean, what's the smiley face message? What's the symbolism? Why are there smiley faces associated with all these young men dying and being thrown in water?
It's like the Joker smiley face. They love that.
Right. So you'll see that same smiley face motif in Alan Moore's films. You'll see it in really the Joker, as well as the Watchmen, if you've ever watched that. The head guy is called the Comedian or whatever. So there's just tons of stuff. I mean, once you take a step back and look through all this modern culture, there's a lot of symbolism. You're being initiated. But I mean, there's a lot of foreshadowing in 9/11. No doubt about it.
Well, I think for me, I don't know if you saw this, but there's a great video on did Back to the Future predict 9/11? And in that, and the symbolism in that is unreal. It's about how they had to save a tower, and how literally there's a 9 and 11 when he goes back in time. He comes back in time. I mean, there's so much 9/11 symbolism. The all-seeing eye. So they put this they put this in so much predictive programming in our thought, in our collective consciousness, in the zeitgeist. Why though, William? Why did they do the revelation of the method before? I get it why they do it after, but why? Is it just to tease us? Is it they're just jacking with us?
Well, I mean, I think it's a significant expression of their power. It's also a signaling function to other people what really is happening. So they have the kind of Wizard of Oz reality where somebody behind the curtain knows a whole thing that's different than people who aren't behind the curtain. So I think that's like the numerology. If you were an occultist, you would know day one on September 11th, 2001, that story was baloney, because you would know those numbers. You would know Crowley's numbers. You would know all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on. I mean, I don't know the revelation of the method and all that stuff. It's all there for that. Let me read you this sequence from this. The bullet out of Tyler's gun had tore out my other cheek to give me a jagged smile from ear to ear. Yeah, just like an angry Halloween pumpkin, Japanese demon, dragon of avarice. That's the end of Fight Club.
And that's when the buildings fall down in the movie, basically, is right after that.
Right. So the book's a little bit, it's a little different.
But still, just the symbolism before, they want us to like get used to these explosions. They want to trick us, and so when we see it, I guess we're okay with it. It's a lot like when all these pandemic movies came out, so people they just know how to react because they've seen it in movies. But those
are all foreshadowing too. So they're foreshadowing the pandemic, and I think a lot of these guys knew the pandemic is coming. Didn't they say? Didn't like Fauci know like there's going to be a pandemic soon?
Oh,
How
he
do they
said
know all that stuff?
he said it multiple times, and they said because they were doing it for health preventative protection. That's why they've been talking about this for years and running simulations. And it happened right after Trump fired Obama's appointed, what is it, viral
Right, this
disaster team.
disaster guy. Let
Yeah,
me see if I can get my book up here. It's not showing up.
yeah, because it wants to see your face. No, I'll put a
I
picture
have
of
to
it
turn
too.
this off. I have to turn off this thing. Hold on. This is too complex for me.
And no, it's a pain in the derriere. But and which book?
Well,
This is your latest book here. I'll just pull it
no,
up.
this is my original book that I wrote in 2010.
Occult symbolism and
Yeah, so it's basically like Crowley behind the Twin Towers, but it's a decent sized book. There's Crowley right here. If I can,
let me see.
let me turn this off. I can't figure this out.
I just had a picture of your book pulled up. Hold on. We're trying to find it right now. Here we go. Aleister Crowley, a visual study. So so the people here.
That's a different one. That's a different one. Here it is right there.
Children of the Beast. Oh, Prophet of Evil. There we
This
go.
is Prophet of Evil. So that's it.
Prophet of Evil. Look at you, like me. You have the cat right there.
There's
I can't
my
believe
cat,
you blurred out the cat, William. You have such a cool cat. I'm so mad.
Yeah, she has her little perch up there, so she goes up there and checks outside.
So
So you can buy this on my website, or you can get it from Amazon.
And everybody, I want everybody to go support you, William, because you are doing the work. But when you come to 9/11, let's talk about some of the most egregious symbols of it. Like for me, I think after the fact, the 2 black squares of Saturn. I don't understand why would they even make that the memorial. These 2 black squares. But what symbolism do you think happened after the fact? Like One World Trade, the idea that 2 towers into one, the inversion. Like what? Tell me what symbolism you think after the fact that woke you up.
Well, I think you just mentioned it because you're bringing the 2 opposites together to create a new synthesis. Actually, the magical that synthesis that I think it's Galilean dialectic. Actually, I was told comes from magic. So I interviewed a guy who said that's magical principle entering into philosophy. Believe it or not, which is thesis, antithesis, synthesis. That's like a magical.
Whoa, say
theory.
that again.
Right. So you have the thesis, the opposite,
the
and
antithesis.
Then the synthesis. Right.
And so when they come together, it synthesizes, is what the idea of it is? Wow.
But then if you look at that new building that they built, it's from the top, it's a hexagram, right? So you're looking down, you have the little squares, the triangles that go up and down the side of it. Maybe that's the symbol of the macrocosm now. Now we've taken these ideas, these magical ideas, and expanded them all over the world.
Do you think, and I know you don't know, I mean, can they pull off a 9/11 in this day and age? Because back then, well, this is why I say that. Nowadays, you'd have a million phones, and you'd be able to, they only had a few cameras. There's only supposedly one video footage taken of a fireman of the first plane going into the first tower, which obviously I think that's
right. Those 2 guys are really suspicious too. Those 2 French brothers.
Everybody's suspicious. Everybody with 9/11 that has anything. Do you find a passport? The person who found the passport.
Right.
I mean, every single story is like this. What the WTF?
Have you ever seen the biker man who explained everything perfectly?
The Harley Davidson guy. Yeah.
Then it's not. I saw the planes hit, and then it came straight down. Like somebody gave him a script.
Dude, he was 100% scripted. And then the guy behind him, as you can tell, he's like an FBI guy. It just looks so obvious that he's some sort of handler. Okay, well then tell me this. Well, what about on 9/11? What do you think happened? Because I believe that the buildings were built to come down, and they might have flown planes into it, but I don't believe it was an American Airlines Flight 93.
No.
That was like what happened in Pennsylvania. There's no plane that hit the ground in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So
I think there was one guy. I wish I could remember his name, but there were planes. There were actual flights that all went down in either Ohio or upstate New York or something. Like there was a stop there. And so what I think happened is the actual flights came down. There was an order, and then the dummy planes went off.
Yeah.
So it was like they couldn't leave it to chance, right? So they definitely. I think the plotters knew they had to have dummy planes. And so, because somebody would panic at the last minute.
No shit, like you're actually how so you would have to be so brainwashed to actually fly a plane into a building because everything in your body would say, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like even a suicidal person would probably still not want to die like that because it just would be so scary. I mean, you would be trembling in fear. I think if I was flying that plane trying to hit a building, I mean, I don't care if I want to die.
Assuming a plane hit the Pentagon, right? 77. So there's
no
your number.
Way.
Right, so either a rocket or something happened or something different. There wasn't a plane. The wreckage wasn't enough.
It was too low. I mean, how could the plane, in my opinion, if we just look at it, it would have had to skid on the ground for a while to even make a hole that low in the Pentagon, in my opinion. So the story's just bullcrap.
Yeah, it's baloney. So it was like an intel op. I think the guy who did the video surmised or speculated that the people on the planes were taken off. They were put in phones, like they had to go to something and sit fake in front of a phone. And then they talked, and then they were taken somewhere and done.
And the flights were empty. And there's usually flights.
Oh, yeah, they were empty, yeah. So and all that stuff is fake. And so there was one where the flight attendant was talking, and somebody's over her shoulder telling her what to say. There's a recording of that.
Yeah, so she's whispering, and suppose you can hear somebody else whispering or something in that recording.
And you don't know who's on those flights, who's an intel op, or what the real story is. I don't know. So it was it's perfect. Yeah. They had 8 years to cover it up, right? Because it's under that same administration. Do you notice like George W. Bush, he's like treated like a pariah? Do you notice he's like a leper?
What do you mean? I feel like I think it's different. I a little bit, but now I feel like him and Michelle Obama are handing out candy, and now everybody.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, I'm saying George Bush was the biggest idiot ever. Jay Leno, all those guys used to crush him. He's such a dummy, and now all of a sudden he's like this really cool guy because he's friends with Michelle Obama. Makes me sick, William. And I'm from Dallas. Well, he lives here in Dallas.
Right. Well, you know that when they came into power, there was no looking back. Nobody got arrested, or there was no. They all
got promotions. Everybody all the military people, William, literally the people that were inside the Pentagon that supposedly gave the information. This is the official story that George Bush and Condoleezza Rice were briefed by the FBI with information that they wanted to fly planes into towers. This is what they tell us. And then they just, overlooked it. They didn't take it serious enough. And those same people that supposedly presented him with that evidence were the ones that got promoted. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah, nobody got demoted, right? I think the head of the Joint Chiefs or something got a promotion. I mean, all these guys got promotions. So it should tell you something. There's a lot of problems with 9/11. But I think it's important to see what happened after the event, because that, I think, was the plan and to do something. It's almost, people have likened it to a Reichstag fire, right? So the Nazis get this mentally ill guy, a true patsy, Martin van der Lubbe, I think is his name.
This is the original false flag. So go ahead.
Yeah, they call him a communist, but he, like, when they were in trial, the guy was drugged to the gills. Like they were giving him pills and stuff. I didn't know enough
about the trial. I know. So what did they trick? They tricked a guy to start a fire, and then
he was the patsy. So the Nazis actually burnt down the Reichstag, right? So the whole German people are outraged, right? Look at the effect of that. It would be the equivalent of seeing our Capitol building being burnt to a crisp, right? They go back and look at the fires. It's a huge fire. The entire Reichstag just burnt to a crisp. So the German people are pissed. They blame a commie, right? They blame this communist so they can do all kinds of stuff to put the communists in jail because they're the bad guys. So they had that fit right into the Nazi paradigm and what they wanted to achieve, like a gift, like a pile of gold.
Well, let me ask you this. Everest. Let me ask you this real quick, William. Have you ever heard of the theory that the Nazis really didn't lose World War II and that they just kind of conceded and came over to America, like Operation Paper? I know that's a whole nother story, but I'm saying this is the only reason why I give it some credence. They're the original false flag attackers. The original
false flaggers, yeah. The whole Gleiwitz thing, I just did an interview with the guy. Well, that was fake. They blamed the Polish people for invading Germany, and that was fake. And that pissed off the German people too. So Hitler and his crew were like puppeteering their own people, lying to them. And they had all these operators that did it for them. So the whole initial Polish thing was fake, and it just outraged the Germans. They attacked us. Okay, we got to go get them, just like the same event. So you got to see that social engineering element to it, like you mentioned, social engineering. So whether the Nazis won, they lost in a big bad way. But there's a lot of Nazis that got out. There were a lot of Catholic rat lines, they called them, that got them out. And actually,
They had it. No, you nailed it. The Catholic guidelines. They had the lines. They had lines to be able to create a new life if they lost the war. So for me,
yeah, they knew. Hitler probably got out. I don't think he killed himself.
Hitler got out. Come on, listen, William. Yeah, as a conspiracy theorist, listen. Everybody can say, well, conspiracy this, conspiracy that. I think Hitler at the time, one of the most powerful men in the world, didn't kill himself with Eva Braun and his dog. I just can't imagine that. I just can't imagine that guy with all the cachet behind his name. I think Hitler, if he was the Hitler we say, he would rather be killed or I don't know. I just can't imagine him killing himself.
It's a much better story. But look at this guy. He was really, if you look at the war in Poland and the Reichstag fire, he knew how, or the people around him knew how to tell a story to the public that was palatable. And that was a good story. I committed suicide. It's over. You don't have to worry about anything. There's no trials.
It's kind of embarrassing. A lot of those guys
got out. Bormann got out. That was a fake death too.
Dude, Mengele became a doctor in Brazil. Mengele became. I mean, give me a break.
Right. So a lot of those guys got out. I mean, a lot of them. There's some of the. Yeah. There's.
What? What do you want to say?
I will just say some of those people's grandchildren are around in the United States.
Oh, they're still running. Oh, dude, a lot of their grandchildren are still running stuff in the United States. I know it's hard to say that. But these lineages are powerful people. They're not just going to give up their power. If there's some multimillionaire family in Germany.
They laundered their money. They laundered it with the Catholic Church's help. There all kinds of stuff that went under the thing. People got paid off. The Germans looted those people incredibly. They took all of their art, money, gold, everything. It was terrible.
We know they got a lot of gold.
They had tons of money. Yeah, there was tons of money laundering and all kinds of nasty stuff after the war. Up until the end, they knew the end was coming. They knew that it was coming. So they had time to prepare. They had a year, at least a year.
Well, for me, I never understood the idea. Like, I know how they describe it to us in school, but like basically they said, oh, we knew World War II. We knew concentration camps were happening, but we didn't want to get involved in the war until Pearl Harbor happened. It's like, what? So some Japanese people had to shoot up a military base in Hawaii for us to go save the Jews. It's just the story doesn't connect.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of problems. I think there's a lot of antipathy in the States at that time, a lot of anti-Semitism, but it's also 7,000 miles away. It's on the Eastern Front, which the U.S. would have had to do some crazy stuff to get all the way over there.
Would have been
it was hard enough to land in Normandy. It was hard enough to land in Normandy, but a lot of them knew. They were getting reports coming out of Switzerland. So they knew that the deaths were happening, but I mean, I don't know. Where do you lay that blame or onus? I don't know. But I mean, it wasn't just the Jews. The Germans had in their plans, they were going to kill every Polish person alive within 5 or 10 years. They just didn't have the time. And Hitler said an annihilation. I mean, he had these multiple annihilation orders, but he said, annihilate the Russians and kill them all. They're not worth anything. So they were going to kill off the Russians if they could pull off, what do they call it? The Eastern Front War, which was what?
It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense that we'd want to kill each other and take each other over. I mean, I know that that's a real thing.
World War II was a disaster. It was a disaster for everybody. It was a disaster for Germans. I mean, Germans killed. I mean, you're not supposed to have sympathy, but I don't think a lot of those people were really on board. They just got propagandized like you wouldn't believe. A lot like Americans.
Dude,
that's propagandized to the death. I mean, it's off the charts.
William, dude, and now we have this society where it's like literally all about manners and political correctness, and it's the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's the problem. It's like we're really literally becoming a fascist country. I mean, it really is a fascist country.
I think it's a fascist country right now.
Is that why? Why? Like you see, I want to say that.
I mean, we're here. We're already here. I mean, it's sad to admit, but. You had all of these big tech companies working. I mean, there was this case, was it Shiva Ayyadurai? Like he proved that the government was calling Twitter to ban him. Twitter!
That's
fascism. It's a fundamental definition of fascism, which is business and government working together. So the Congress has wasted so much time with these bogus impeachment things. They should have been rewriting 230. They should have been putting proper regulations on these tech companies. and they didn't do it. They failed. So the Congress has failed all overall, just wasting massive amounts of time.
But William, you know they didn't fail. You know that the Political Action Committee told them not to go after big tech. You know that they're. I mean, they failed us. They failed us, the people. Right. But trust me, these politicians, if they can't get in power and still have any integrity, like they have to be. They have to do what they're told. I mean, how do you get in that position in this day and age?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it really goes back to power law. Some of these careers are built by wealthy people. I mean, Bill Clinton is a good example. But some of these people are really fronts for business power or business interests, and still are once they're in power. So it's a really dirty system. I lived in D.C. and some of those guys just all they do is raise money. They don't even do their jobs. They're just raising money for the next campaign so they can stay in power.
That's all they're trying to do is self-preservation. But see, William, that's the problem with America is that we're run by multinational corporations. And a multinational corporation, Google doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't, they can't have empathy. A company can't feel empathy for somebody. They can make their gay flag for a month, but that doesn't mean they're empathetic. That just shows you how fake that a company. The fact that all the companies changed, turned gay for 1 month, that just shows you how they're not empathetic and how they don't have a soul. So that's the problem when America is bought and sold by corporations like Coca-Cola and Twitter. Then we don't have a soul. The soul of the nation is soulless, in my opinion, right now.
Right. No, I agree. It's a shame. I mean, I think it's almost like the movie. Have you ever seen Rollerball with James Caan?
Yeah, I have.
The whole world is just broken up into cartels and combines. And
but see, that would be better. I think that would almost be better. Do you think that's actually going to happen, though? I mean, I
don't know if it's that much different. But they really didn't want individuality. That's really what the whole story of Rollerball is that this guy was a superstar, and they didn't like that because it took away from them, right?
Well, that's the idea of...
And that's kind of really the idea of fascism, really, in a lot of ways, is like the end of the power of the individual gets squelched.
William, it gets so fascist that the idea of love is ownership. For me to love you will be illegal because that means I own you. Just the idea of loving something is ownership. So that's why in George Orwell, 1984, you can't have a relationship in true fascism because that would be giving yourself to somebody else. You have to give yourself fully to the state. Yes.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, the current pattern of where we're headed is not positive.
But see, William, are you and I going to be a victim of it? I mean, you're a family man. I don't know. I feel like there is. This is what I'm saying. There's the brainwash and there's the not brainwash. You go on the Vegas stage and you have the hypnotist and he can hypnotize some people, and some people don't get hypnotized. So I feel like the people that don't get hypnotized, they don't do the embarrassing chicken dance in front of 10,000 people. So I think because we're not brainwashed, and maybe this is just me trying to be white pill positive. I think us that can see what's happening are not going to be victims to the New World Order, or at least we'll be the last ones on the trains to the concentration camps.
Right. Well, hopefully. I mean, you look at some of these people that are still on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. I don't know. I don't feel that positive. But I think that really these guys, the real controllers, the kings of the earth, really didn't account for the power of the internet and people to communicate behind their backs. So their propaganda wasn't as powerful and potent as maybe it could have been in the past when the CIA really had control through the mighty Wurlitzer is what they called it, through the control radio. Of everything. Yeah, so they had a department in the CIA. All they did is wanted to control, all the communications. They had very ambitious designs. So
okay. William,
the internet really allowed this to happen. You and me to happen really wasn't possible before 9/11. So they didn't really anticipate the possibility of things like this happening, people sharing information.
Okay, I want you guys to watch this video. This is a video that just got re-archived. This is from after Hurricane Katrina, and Hurricane Katrina, they had a mandatory evacuation. So guys, this is just a sneak peek of what's about to happen in America. 2-minute video.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure too that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave. We need to make note, call it in.
They say there are no orders to use force, just strong persuasion, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken? No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansions. Residents were handcuffed on the ground. In the end, police took their weapons but let them stay in their homes.
They were a little bit threatened because our weapons were bigger than their weapons.
For many of the police and guard troops, it is an uncomfortable job to do this in an American city. This guard unit occupied a church, using it as a base camp. They had to leave a note because they could not get hold of the pastor to get permission.
It is surreal. Yeah, you never expect to do this in your own country.
Chris Montgomery says he'd rather be in Iraq than patrolling American neighborhoods.
Walking up and down these streets, you don't want to think about the stuff that you're gonna have to do if somebody pops around the corner.
I mean, shoot in America.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you in here. I don't want you in here, period.
Watch this.
I know all about it.
An elderly woman, they tackled her and ripped her out of her own house.
Out of there, and she is now out of the city.
So
No one will be able to be armed. We will take all
oh, here, let's see the last thing.
weapons.
It was a human drama with emotions and tensions running high. Patty Connie is still trying to recover physically and emotionally
They really did a number on me.
from the day police forced her from her home.
It was traumatic. All of a sudden, they were banging on the front door.
I mean, and this is, guys, that's an elderly woman, and that was for Hurricane Katrina because there was people looting the Superdome. So that means they had to go to other people's houses and throw elderly women on the ground and break their arm to protect the United States somehow. I mean, this is just a sneak peek, William, I think, of what's very likely to happen in the very near future, sadly.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, I think that the current powers really would like to have everybody's gun for sure.
William, the gun's the last thing. Okay, then let me give your opinion because we're going to wrap this up. We've been doing 52 minutes. We got about 5 minutes left. The guns are the last American defense method. But this is you heard. I know you heard this. Joe Biden even said to take on the government, you need F-15s and nuclear weapons. So, first of all, that gives me the idea that he's scared of us having guns. And second of all, they got to take our guns. So what's your opinion on it, William?
Be armed. Get twice the amount that you have now. But that's an interesting statement by him because I think you can deduce that they are talking about that, right? So somebody having that conversation, at least around him, or having that conversation. And then if the NSA is back spying on Tucker Carlson or something, that's a blatant breaking of the law. So we're in deep trouble. If you remember,
real quick, William, I remember what you're going to say, but you know Trump told the NSA to spy on Rachel Maddow and all. I mean, so I just want to call a spade a spade. I mean, I'm not anti-Trump. The government
he got spied on too. But if you remember the unmasking scandal at the end of the Obama administration, right? They were getting supposed things and then asking.
But how much trouble did they get, William? None.
Nothing.
Zilch. Dude, they broke the law repeatedly. Got them totally caught. Nothing. That's why Trump started to do it. And Trump only did it to a couple journalists. If he would have done it to the unmasking to the way that Obama would have done it, they would have thrown Trump under the jail. And that's another thing is the New York district attorney said, oh, Trump's going to jail. Trump's going to be charged criminally. Did you just see Trump didn't get charged with no crime in New York? Did you see that, William?
I did. So it's interesting. But yeah, it's really kind of an ugly political situation all over, I think. So, things aren't looking great.
What about the guns, though? I mean, if they take away our guns, are we done?
Yeah, I think that's the
They
end.
say we can't. They say we can't. William, let's just role play it. Tomorrow, false flag attack, 85 people shot in a movie or whatever. We got to take away the guns. What happens to society because we know how people are fighting back with the masks and stuff. Do you think people fight if they say your guns are taken away? Are people in the street mobilizing and shooting?
So.
You do think that would start a civil war, in your opinion, Wayne?
Yeah, I think so. I think because what's next? Every criminal state, whether it's the Nazis or the communists, always took people's guns in advance. Or, for example, Cambodia, they always took people's guns as a preface. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of all the abuses. So, if that's what the Second Amendment's for. If these people don't want the Bill of Rights, they want to rewrite history. Like I know history. It's not pretty. That's why people have individual power, and that's why people need to have guns. You should have guns for defense against the government, not just your neighbor.
In your opinion
An
of
abusive government.
in your history, and you know all the history that you've looked into, what system does work in your opinion? Like, I mean, is America built to fail? I feel like America is still, it's so corrupt. It's run by evil social engineers that really want to make us happy, but I don't know. It's better than Canada. I look at Canada. We're still better than, even if America sucks, we're still better than Canada is right now. So what system works where the people are happy and they still have all their, necessities?
Well, back when it wasn't as corrupt, I think the tripartite system, where you have an active judiciary kind of refereeing and maintaining the law, and that the actual people in Congress are actually creating laws, I think, and not trying to break them, is a functioning system. But we don't seem to be doing that as much right now. So I think the original American system at its inception 250 years ago was really great for kind of a post-colonial or newly colonized system, but it's gotten big. It's huge. I mean, we have a huge government, 320 million people, and you had something that was created when there's 10 million maybe? I don't know what the actual population was, but it was nothing like now. So, but in a lot of ways, the means of, the classical liberal means of the Bill of Rights and due process of law made this country really what it is great. Is this kind of working of non-tyrannical, dictatorial, authoritarian systems, but going through processes that everybody agrees on are hopefully fair, which really aren't. I mean, if you see what they did to the general and stuff, the judiciary is in real trouble. But I think back in the day, that's a good system. I think it's a very good system when the laws are actually accurately enforced.
Well, the reason I asked is Obama just said, he was in an interview with Nancy Pelosi and Eric Holder, probably two of the worst people ever. And he ended the interview, you can find it on my Twitter, I retweeted, I don't even need to pull it up, but basically saying, oh, we're going to see how this America's democratic experiment will work. Like, that's how he described our current situation. This is Obama saying that it's an experiment. Now, I know America's only 200 and change years old, and I guess technically maybe you could say it's an experiment.
It's the longest running republic in history.
Well, perfect.
It's still supposedly a republic.
But what I'm saying is he's already putting out the predictive programming that it's an experiment, that the system needs to be totally, it's just an experiment. And you know what? The experiment failed. We realized it failed, so we got to do it all over again.
Which is really dangerous. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you have this massive vote fraud. And when that goes, if the country goes, if they decide that this present system is not good or they're going to rewrite history, it's going to have devastating results. I mean, it's going to be a disaster. And I hope a lot of these people realize they should go watch the breakup of Yugoslavia or breakup of Russia or some of these other countries that fell apart and see what happens. Because go look at the breakup of Yugoslavia.
Well, that's my last question. How does America break up? Does Texas, in your opinion, I know you don't know, but does Texas succeed and we become the country of Texas? Does Louisiana join us and we become the Texas-Louisiana connection? You know what I mean? I'm saying, there are going to be states that team up. I feel like some of these states, I'm just saying, if Texas succeeded and said we're going to be our own country, I would have to go with that. I would have to succeed with Texas.
Well, if you live there, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that, so, like, if you look at the war between the states, if you want to call it that, or the Civil War, I mean, Lincoln was trying to keep the Union together, and a house divided cannot stand. So I think that right now, it's almost like a weird thing where it's not geographical differences; it's actually urban-rural. So really, these urban centers of New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco on the West Coast are really the ones that are at odds with the rest of the country.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right, because Dallas is now a liberal place. Texas is very conservative. Austin's liberal.
Go to Austin. Austin is like Berkeley. It's Berkeley in the Midwest.
Exactly, and the rest of Texas was not like that whatsoever.
Right. But that's the way it is all over the country now. So it's urban and rural. And that's, if I was urban and I was going to push for a civil war, break down the system, I would think very carefully about that, because the people who control the land control what you eat, what you get, all that stuff.
That's going to be the problem when they could easily just, shut us down. All the pipelines the grocery store right now, they don't even have the Powerade Zero. I go, where's the Powerade? Oh, we haven't got a shipment in. I'm like, this would be very simple for them to cut off our supply lines and we'd go hungry like that. like that.
Wait till 3 days. 3 days of people without food, they go absolutely crazy. Go look at the Russian Revolution and the French Revolution, both based upon food. It all started in Russia because some lady didn't get her bread and she chucked a rock through a window and it just drove everybody else crazy. That's all. Literally, go back and look at that in 1917. So, yeah, I mean,
it's a bleak
if
future.
If I lived in an urban center, I'd be thinking like I need to have food for 3 or 4 months.
I have over 100 pounds of rice. Now I know that's not.
Well, don't tell anybody that.
I know.
Because the people who don't prep are going to be in a real world of hurt.
And they're going to be running around the streets with guns, unfortunately.
That's
okay.
The thing is that it devolves, man. It goes and it escalates. Go look at how the Yugoslavia fell apart.
I'm going to watch a YouTube video on it right now. So that's the best. You think that's like probably the best example of what potentially could happen?
Yeah, because it was ethnic and it was different and people got kicked out and they had to move. So the Serbs got kicked out of Croatia and then the Muslims got abused. And I mean, it was a hellscape. And it was like a little, like carved out little pieces of land that people had to move in large groups. And it was almost like a trail of tears. People had to go one place to the other. And the lucky ones got out early. And the ones who didn't,
that's why they do the Trail of Tears, so you die along the trail. I mean, that you keep on.
They did that. That's the Armenian genocide. When the Turkish people genocided the Armenians, that's really how they did it. They didn't feed them and made them walk, and then
you just lose people on the way because some people aren't. My mom couldn't.
They couldn't fight back. I mean, yeah. Your mom what?
I'm just saying my mom couldn't last a genocide. If they had my mom walking and moving around, my mom, she's not an elderly lady. My mom wouldn't. Some people, like I'm saying, wouldn't be. I could make it if they made me walk around the desert. I'm a 6'3" strong man. I'm just saying most people wouldn't, or a lot of people that are delicate. But
it's crazy that we have to think about that. Like that's really, I mean, it's very perilous times. I wish it wasn't the case.
And I worry about that because I'm not a baby. I'm 34 years old, but I'm just saying I like to think kind of just when I'm walking or exercising, like I'm going to be around in 2030. Something weird is going to happen. I mean, weird stuff's going to happen before then, but 2030, William, something freaking weird is going to happen. I don't know what, but I'm not looking forward to whatever game plan where they press play on the record player, whatever song is going to play, because it is not going to be a pretty one in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it almost feels like you're in biblical times. So, I would plan accordingly.
Well, where can they find you? I got the link to the description, William. What do you want to tell the people before we go today? And it's such a pleasure to have you on. Anytime you want to come on, I definitely want to have you on again.
Great, it's great to talk with you. All my videos are documentaries. If you want to see them, are on Vimeo. You can just look up William Ramsey. My books are available on Amazon, and then you can buy signed copies through my website, WilliamRamseyInvestigates.com.
Well, William, we talked about 9/11. We talked about the symbolism. Last thing, do you think Dick Cheney idolized Aleister Crowley? You think he was into Aleister Crowley?
Well, there's definitely, to me, a connection with the Skull and Bones and probably some of those ideas. They probably have some of Crowley's ideas in the library, and there's a decent chance that George Bush Jr. is the offspring of Aleister Crowley.
That's what they say, that his mom was Aleister Crowley's daughter. So think about that, guys. Just want y'all to think about that. Theoretically, the president of the United States' dad or grandfather was Aleister Crowley. Theoretically. Now, we don't know this. This is, rumor and innuendo. But if you look at the picture, I want you to go look at a picture of Aleister Crowley. And I want you to go look at a picture of Barbara Bush. They look like his freaking daughter. I mean, it's
carbon copy, man. Huge bleak blockheads. They both had.
And they look weird. They have the weird nose. They just have this kind of peculiar
same
face.
Eyes. You can overlap their faces. It's very strange. And her timing and Crowley's and where she was born and her mom, Pauline Robinson.
What was her mom? To talk about her mom real quick, because what was so weird? Her mom was like a whore or something.
No, but she was from a wealthy family. And she was she was friends with a friend of Crowley. So Crowley's friend was Harris. And then Pauline O'Hara was her name.
But she was into sex magic, right? Wasn't her mom supposedly into sex magic and group sex?
But that was back in the day. That's what the kind of wealthy, when they went to the City of Lights, they went to France in the 20s. That was a desirable place to go. So Hemingway, a lot of authors, Crowley, and Pauline Robinson was known to be there. And when she came back pregnant, and she's
for sure. She got pregnant in Paris. She was there on the scene. It's just so obvious.
Bro, go look at a picture. Go look at a picture of Barbara Bush and her family. She is an outlier. She's a genetic outlier. She's not one of them. She's not her dad. Go look. I mean, you can look at the family photo on Google.
But do you think George Bush maybe knows, or do you think he has no idea? Last question. Do you think?
Oh, I think they all have to know.
He'd have to know. That's what I'm saying. He'd have to know.
Look, there's Christian families that stay Christian, Presbyterian for 3 generations. There's people who are Mormons for 3, Jews for generation. There's occult families, and they hang out with each other. They have secret societies. They hang out at Bohemian Grove.
And William, if my dad told me to go into a group of people, wear a robe or whatever, even no matter how fucked up it was, I would trust my dad. Or, you know what I mean? I would trust somebody in my family. I know it's weird. I'm not saying it's okay to be an occultic, but if I was led by my parents to do something, I would usually listen to my parents. So what I'm saying is I can see how generations of this happened because they were raised into it. So it just is normal to them.
Right. I mean, that must have been an interesting conversation when the father who's passed away says, son, you know, I'm a member of this group, and we put on robes and scream at each other and lie in coffins, and I take a pee on you and you pee on me, and then we
kill an animal and we pour the blood on each other. I mean,
we're brothers under the cloth, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it was for me and my dad. So you're in the same thing. You're the firstborn son. Welcome to the club.
Amen, brother. I'm sure that's exactly how he was to talk to. All right, guys, we love you, William. I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Peace. And make sure to